It's time for another UNC basketball recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I am THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me, as he always does, our very own basketball recruiting director, Mr. Clint Jackson. Clint, this is a special podcast that we have today because UNC got big news Saturday afternoon. Kerwin Walton has announced he will be the sixth member of Carolina's 2020 recruiting class, a class that was number 3 in the nation before Walton's announcement, perhaps could climb a little bit higher. I know fans care about that stuff. More importantly, I will ask you, what does getting Kerwin Walton do for this basketball program?
Well, I think the main thing it does is it raises their ranking a little bit. Like you said, they're the number 3 class in the country, and they're probably going to go up after this. What you do is you get another perimeter weapon. You get another guy who can play the 2 or the 3. You get another guy who can fill it up from deep. We know that UNC had a lot of trouble shooting the ball this past year, and I think Roy Williams has made it clear and throw down the gauntlet that he is not going to have another team that can't hit perimeter jump shots, especially when you bring in a point guard like Caleb Love, who is known to be able to break down that defense. You have to have shooters who can knock down open jump shots in order to keep that defense from cheating and helping out with guys like Caleb Love and helping out with not doubling down on guys like Armando Bacot, Garrison Brooks, and Daron Sharp.
And also, if you go back to this past year's team, when Cole or whoever got in the lane and they did kick it out, you want to be able to hit those shots as well once there's the kick out. And that is an element they need because, like you said, Caleb Love's a penetrating guy. He may not always get to the rim. Someone may come in, step in. He's got to be able to kick out. And if you kick out and hit a lot of their shots, it's going to open up the reversal of the ball back inside for a big man. It will make Carolina's offense look a lot more like the Carolina offense most fans have seen in past years that simply didn't exist this past season.
Agree with everything you said. I mean, you have to have those pieces in order to make the other pieces work better. And we know when Carolina spreads that floor out, and they isolate a guy like R.J. Davis or Caleb Love, and they can penetrate and get into that lane, or a Daron Sharp or Armando Bacot who can isolate down low. Having those open jump shooters just really keeps that floor spread, keeps the defense from cheating. It makes everything work a lot better, like you said.
So how good a shooter is Kerwin Walton?
Very good. He gets his shot out of his hands really quick. He's got good size. It's very sexy these days to have a shooter with size. There's a dime a dozen of 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" guys who can shoot the ball. But when you get a guy around that 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" range, and I think Kerwin Walton's about 6'5", 205. When you got a guy who has that sort of size on the perimeter, he can catch and get it out of his hand really quick. It's a weapon. I mean, he's got I don't know that I'd quite call it a Dan Marino release, but he definitely gets the shot out of his hands pretty quickly.
I can say with absolute confidence that is the first Dan Marino reference I've ever heard in a basketball recruiting podcast. So kudos to you, sir, on that one. Okay, what other kind of comparisons can you make about things in his game that, since you threw the Dan Marino thing out, I got to go somewhere with it, right? What else in Kerwin's game do you like? And maybe you can tell people, okay, he's a little bit like this guy doing that. He's a little bit like that guy doing this.
Well, I mean, just his size. His size is so appealing. He's a savvy player. He's a guy that's a good teammate. He's a good culture guy. He'll play defense. He's not. I wouldn't say he's an outstanding defender, but he's a good positional defender. He doesn't take a lot of gambles. He plays the angles really well. He's got a good enough body to sneak inside and get you some rebounds, and he's willing to rebound. And I just think he's a super coachable, humble kid. And those things really help the locker room and really help your team's attitude. And we know at times, especially there were times when you went in that locker room after the UNC games this year, and it wasn't a pretty scene.
Yeah, they were losing, so it's going to be like that anyway. But yeah, there were some times where the lack of cohesion was there at times. And I don't think, to clarify, it's not that there were a lot of guys that weren't happy with each other. It's just a lot of the losing, and that will affect a lot of stuff that's going on in the locker room. What are the things that you've told me before about Kerwin Walton that I've always thought was very intriguing and made me think that this was more than likely going to happen, that he would commit to UNC when that 6th spot opened up? And we've known for a while the 6th spot would open up. is the fact that he wants to play for a winner. He wants to play on a national champion. He wants to be a part of something that's big. And, you know, Kentucky and North Carolina, Kansas, that's as big as it gets. So now he's going to have that opportunity. Is that one of the things that in your dealing with him over time that kind of made you think, yeah, I think Carolina's the team? Because if you look at the other programs, they have some of those attributes the other programs that he was looking at don't have.
You know, he really opened up to me, and I think it was our last interview. I think we probably run 4 or 5 Kerwin Walton articles at least since he started being recruited. But in our last article that we ran about him, he really had some great quotes. And if you look at, you know, the articles across the network and even on other networks, I don't mean to toot our own horn here, but he just really opened up. And I'm a Carolina writer. I'm a Duke writer, but I'm a Carolina writer as well. And he really gave me some heartfelt quotes because I talked to him over the phone. It wasn't text message. He actually is one of the rare kids who's better on the phone than he is via text. And he really talked about some of the things that resonated with him about Carolina. And, you know, it was the culture of winning, the chance to play for a national championship. He said that he really trusted Coach Williams. And when we first interviewed him, that was one of his motives. So always pay attention to what a kid says to me about his motives before he starts to become a huge media target and he starts to give canned answers. And he always said that trust in the coaching staff and the chance to be part of something special and trust, they were going to be huge to him. And then you look at the other factor, he waited a long time and now the spot opened up and then suddenly he wants to make a commitment. So, you know, we kind of look at those things and add it up, and this has kind of been the way we've been thinking this was going to go for a while.
Yeah, because the other schools that he was looking at, he could have popped for any of them a while ago. And I think the longer this dragged out, and I don't want to say maybe dragged out's not the right word, but because other things had to publicly occur that have now occurred in order for him to actually commit to Carolina. But, you know, if it was Arizona or Georgetown or whoever, he could have Minnesota, he could have popped there a while ago. And you and I have talked a couple of times. The longer this thing went on, it seemed almost, I don't want to say obvious because this wasn't pristine, but it was really close to pristine. And it seemed to be more so the longer this went on.
Yeah, I never really had the chance to get on the board and say the word that people like me to say because I never confirmed it with definity or whatever the word is I'm looking for here. It's a little late. My brain's not as quick as normal, but I was looking for that word, that firm commitment. I never really got it, but just all the signs kept pointing to Carolina. All of his words point to Carolina. All of his timing pointed to Carolina. And the fact that UNC flirted with some other kids and that never really materialized. So if they wanted a guy to add to the class, a 6th guy, they wanted a shooter, they wanted somebody who could, you know, hit it from range. They wanted somebody to open up the floor for the playmakers that they have. This guy's a perfect fit, and I think he realized it.
Now, you've already told everybody what kind of game he has. As a freshman, are you thinking maybe he's like a 15 to 20 minute a game kind of guy? Or can you see a scenario where maybe he can help the Tar Heels in a 25-minute plus role? Or is that maybe sophomore year and afterward?
I mean, I could speculate just like anyone else, and I think Roy Williams, if he ever watches a podcast, he would probably cringe at me answering this question.
He's going to be mad at me for asking the question, but I'm just trying to give people sort of an idea of where you see his game. So maybe a fair question, and don't want to put you on the spot. You know, where is his game now? How much can he help his first year, do you think? If that's a fair way of putting it.
No problem. I think the biggest thing is he's got to hit shots. You know, he's going to be a guy that's going to play on the wing. He can occasionally take people off the dribble, but that's not his strength. He can occasionally grab a rebound, but that's not what he's brought in to do. He's being brought in to hit shots. He's being brought in to develop. So I think he's a guy who's going to buy into the program, not looking to go 1 and done or 2 and done. I think he's going to be a program player, but I think he's going to be a guy that if he can just knock down shots and play alongside the talent, he will find his way on that court. As for how many minutes, I have no idea. I would guess he would be a 10 or 15-minute guy right away. He probably has a shot to start because Roy says that's earned in practice. And we all know that. You mentioned that to me before. He's got a shot to earn minutes and get on that floor. And, you know, if he's a second guy off the bench, third guy off the bench, or maybe a fifth starter. But I think if he can hit open shots, he can get on that floor at Carolina.
The first member of the class of 2020 committed 21 months ago, Dayron Sharp. The sixth and final member of the class commits here April 25th, 2020. So that's a long time between your first and last commitment for a class, but it's a heck of a class. 6 guys, maybe the number 2 class in the country when everybody wakes up tomorrow. We'll have to wait and find out. I think that would be interesting. And I know the people on our message board would be excited. Even though it really won't mean anything, they'll still be very excited to see the class move up a little bit.
Absolutely. It's a great touch to end the class with. And we'll see what Eric Bossy and Corey Evans and Dan McDonald and those guys do with where this class ranks. But I got to think by adding a quality player, top 100 player like a Kerwin Walton, they might even move up another spot or two.
Absolutely. For Clint Jackson, this is Andrew Jones. You've been watching and listening to another basketball recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. If you're checking us out on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe, click like if you like this video, and hit the notification bell so you can get updates with all of our content, and we've got a ton of it up there. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys listening in.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by.